Hello, and welcome to Temple of the False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. I'm one of your hosts, Andy.
I'm Bruce.
And we've made it to the end of Season 2.
Ding, 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 ding.
Episode 20. For those who were not here with us last season, we ended the season. How many times can I say season? We ended the season with some fun themed decks. We came up with the theme. We built decks apart from each other. Came back, showed them off. Last season was Germs. But this season, it's this
opted for a
coming
more
out in
uplifting
May.
theme.
Yeah, this episode's coming out in May. So I chose a theme last week. This week we came back together. We got our decks. The theme is barbecue. Barbecue. Some nice grilled meat or meat substitute and lots of fun. That's what today's gonna be. I should have grabbed a beer for this one, but
you can just
got my water.
You can just dub in the sound.
Yeah. So, Bruce, what do you think of this theme?
I was actually kind of worried we were going to have a lot of the same cards because I was sort of thinking we were thinking along the same levels. And the funny part is, now that I've seen both decks, we were thinking on the same level. We were thinking very similar, and yet we still took it in dramatically different directions.
After looking at your list, I had made the correct assumption to not go down a very similar path, but a somewhat similar path. I mean, barbecue's barbecue. You know, it's fun. It's
grilling.
Meaty. It's what?
It's grilling.
It's grilling.
Grilling and chilling.
So I guess nobody would be surprised to know that, you know, we both chose red.
I don't think that's a shock. I mean,
no.
You know, it's fire.
It's not a
shock. Exactly. And it wasn't. It wasn't a shock to either of us, and there's no shocks in either of our decks. So the idea that we both chose red as at least part of our decks is not really a surprise. So Andy, I want to talk about your deck first.
Okay, that's fine.
Mostly because I want to know, like, why blue? Because here, I'll get it started. Andy's commanders, and yes, I said it, commanders are Okun, Eye of Chaos, and Zindersplit, Eye of Wisdom.
Yes, a couple Cyclops.
All right, so what inspired those two? And I'm going to hand it over.
So, pretty much, I was going to go down the food route, but thought that may have been a little obvious. I figured you were probably going that way. But after coming up with... I came up with the theme, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to just go all out with it. I want to be as just crazy thematic as possible. And so I thought, how can I get the closest to flipping burgers on the grill as I can than flipping coins?
And you thought one-eyed homunculus. That's the first thing that came to mind when you thought barbecue.
Yeah, I thought one-eyed homunculus and partner who is about 20 times the size. But yeah, I figured flipping burgers, so I thought flipping coins.
Nice.
Which brought me to my first group of cards, which was all about burger flipping. You know, I got Fiery Gambit in there. I went through, I just typed in flip into Scryfall.
Right.
Or coin, and kind of went through and found some cards that either were themey, like Goblin Festival, you know, like Festival Party, or just kind of silly. Krark's Thumb and Krark the Thumbless had, of course they were invited to the party. It's Krark. And then I also kind of, on the flip aspect, went with Hamora, Human Ascendant.
Oh, yeah, I like the flip idea. That's very nice.
4 red. It came up when I typed in flip. So 4 red, It can't block. It's a 4/4, and when it is put into a graveyard from play, return it, play flipped. So the other half, I guess, because it's the Kamigawa flip, so it's like turn 180 type thing. It turns into an enchantment that says creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying and fire breathing, which, you know, also a little on theme. Some hot stuff. And then all the way to going back for seconds, Stitch in Time, which is 1 blue and red. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, take an extra turn after this one. You know, kind of going back for another burger.
I don't remember the last time I went to a barbecue and didn't go back for another.
When was the last time you went to a barbecue and they asked you hamburger or hot dog? Yeah. So my next group in this beautiful deck was hot dogs. So I went through all of the dogs in red, clicked on most of the ones that had fire coming out of them, and I was like, these are some hot dogs.
Very nice.
Ashmouth Hound, Chandra's Magmut, Igneous Cur, one of my favorites, Immolating Soul Eater. It's a 1/1 for 2, and for a red Phyrexian, so it can be either paid for with red or 2 life. It gets +1/+0 until end of turn, which is just kind of cool. Lava Hounds, of course. Pyre Hound, of course. A little newer, Underworld Rage Hound, which has got Escape, so keep coming back.
So the Underworld Rage Hound, that's
Yeah.
like the hot dog that gives you like heartburn?
Yeah. It
just keeps
comes
coming
right
back at you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what goes best with a hot dog and a hamburger but their bready counterparts, the roll. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to flip some coins, I'm going to roll some dice.
All right.
I've got, I guess I should have said this at the top, got a bunch of silver bordered cards in here, Bruce, and I hope you're okay with that.
I'll live. I'll live somehow, some way. I will survive.
It's funny because after I put all the cards in this group, I wanted to put in Buzzbark, but he does not fit the colors.
No.
So, needing some rolls. Obviously, I've got Krark's Other Thumb. You know, Krark.
Yep.
Krark had a +2, and that +2 was his thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got Krark's Other Thumb. I've got Chicken Egg, Chicken a la King, which also kind of themey here if you're grilling up some chicken. I've got Goblin Bookie, which is kind of fun for red. You can reflip a coin,
yeah.
or re-roll a die.
Right. Works either way.
Yeah. Synergies, man. And then I've got Crazy Cow, which is from Unglued, which during your upkeep, roll a 6-sided die. On 1, sacrifice Crazy Cow, and on 3, deals 3 damage to each creature and player.
Yep.
Which is a big, powerful card for 4 mana on a 3/3 body.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then zooming up to Unstable, we've got Low Blobber and Mad Science Fair Project, which from what I remember, Unstable was a very roll heavy set.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get some of those in here. Mad Science Fair Project was kind of in there to also bridge the gap between this and my next segment, or next grouping, which was kind of the group hug mentality of the chaoticness of this deck. Not to say that it's all group hugging, but it never is. I've got a silver bordered card also from Unglued called Ricochet, which whenever any spell targets a single player, each player rolls a 6-sided die. That spell is directed to the player or players with the lowest die roll. If 2 or more players tie for the lowest die roll, they re-roll until there is no tie, which is absurd.
Yes.
Though you don't really see many spells targeting single players in Commander. You see it a lot in like one-on-one, but
yeah.
And then we've got a Wall of Fortune, which just you can tap an untapped wall to re-roll a die. And as I was saying before, I've got a bit of group hugginess to this deck in a form I like to call party games.
Gotta have some games at the barbecue.
Yeah, right? I'm kind of blowing through this deck, but there's a lot to cover.
No.
My party games came from the idea that, this barbecue happening on a beach. Been listening to a lot of B-52s, and I was like, beach.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's some foreshadowing.
Ooh. So my party games start off, obviously, with Game of Chaos.
Yep.
Which, ridiculously, for 3 red, you flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails. While coin is in air, the loser of the flip loses 1 life. The winner of the flip gains 1 life. The winner also can choose to repeat the process, but you double the stakes each time. Have you ever played this card?
No.
I have. I've had it played against me.
Okay.
I think
Who
our
was
friend
it?
Jesse.
Okay.
Jesse has a coin flipping deck.
Yeah.
And he targeted me, and I think we just kept going and going. I think we got to, I want to say 16. Is that?
It makes
1,
sense.
2,
Yeah.
4, 8, 16. Yeah. So like about 5 flips in, I had to call it. I was like, but it was a lot of fun. It's a good game. It's a good game. It's a good card. Also in the silver bordered kind of world, we have the wonderful the R&D cards. What are they called? The playtest cards from Mystery Booster. I put it in Mana Abundance because
Nice.
I figured that would just be silly if everyone was on the same page all the time with their mana, which, not to spoil anything, I think this card would go immensely great in your deck.
I think it just might, actually. I might have to keep... You'll have to remind me of this when I actually go to make that particular commander. We can talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. Pointy Finger of Doom as your spin the bottle.
Yep.
It's a 4-mana artifact. You 3 tap it, you spin it in the middle of the table so that it rotates completely at least once, then destroy the closest permanent the finger points to. So it's like spin the bottle, but deadlier.
The key with Pointy Finger of Doom is you really want a group that is going to play it for the fun.
Yeah.
Because when you play Pointy Finger of Doom, there is nothing stopping anybody from rearranging their table. And that just wrecks the fun. Because you can easily arrange your entire table so that all the cards are pointing in from the middle of the table in a row. And you put the card you're willing to sacrifice at the front. Well, where's the fun in that? That's just silly. The whole point is that it could be a whole bunch of things. So you want your opponents to play along with you and not, try to optimize their or try to minimize their loss.
Right.
Let's just let this rip. And you definitely don't want to be playing this card with somebody who plays lands in front, unless of course they only have 3.
It's like semi split second type thing. Like kind of goes the same with how your Buzzbark used to go when you were trying to deal damage. You'd see a lot of people trying to organize their board.
Well, yeah,
so
I mean,
they didn't get dice.
Right, they want to spread the board out to limit the likelihood of one die landing on 2 cards and both of the cards taking the damage. And I get that, but I mean, come on, let's have some fun here.
On we go to strategy, schmagedy. Say that 10 times fast. 1 in a red. That's it. 1 in a red. Roll a six-sided die. It has the indicated effect. 1, do nothing. 2, destroy all artifacts. 3, destroy all lands. Whoa. 4, it deals 3 damage to each creature and each player. 5, each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. 6, repeat this process 2 more times. Which, if you are using Krark's Other Thumb, you don't necessarily have to choose the highest one. You just choose the one that you want. So Krark's Other Thumb, you just kind of roll 2 dice, choose the one. But, I mean, this is much more fun if it's completely random, which is why it's a party game. And then the gamiest of all, I will note, I did not put Goblin Game in here on purpose. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
It just didn't feel right. I wanted these games to be absurd.
Yeah.
So this is Water Gun Balloon Game. As Water Gun Balloon Game enters the battlefield, each player puts a pop counter on 0. There's like a bar up the side of it. This is a 2-mana artifact. When a player casts a spell, move that player's pop counter up 1. Again, it counts up to 5. When a player's pop counter hits 5, that player creates a 5/5 pink giant teddy bear creature token and resets all pop counters to 0. And then you start again.
I'm pretty sure that I have a 5/5 pink giant teddy bear creature token.
Well, you bought Unsanctioned, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Maybe just for that token, but I couldn't say for sure.
It's a pretty gnarly card. The art has the pink giant teddy bear, and shooting some. It kind of is like almost like a first-person shooter view, trying to shoot some water into the mouths of some grotesque beings, filling up it's like a carnival game.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm explaining carnival games.
It's a carny game.
It's fun. The next place I went was, I remembered, Andy. I was talking to myself. I remembered watching, I can't remember if it was Loading Ready Run or if it was Day 9. They were playing something, and the Dominaria Karn came up, Karn Scion of Urza. And somebody mentioned, oh yeah, Dad Karn. And I was like, what? And I think somebody on stream was like, what? And they explained it. Karn Scion of Urza, on a very quick glance, looks like he's standing at a grill, holding a plate to put, whatever on the grill. Burgers, dogs, chicken, whatever you got. And so I just had to include it. I had to include Grill Karn. So I did.
Yeah, you have to include Grill Karn.
Along with that, I also had to include Spatula of the Ages, which is an unglued card, because, I needed a spatula. It's a 4-mana artifact, and for 4 and tap and sacrifice Spatula of the Ages, put into play from your hand any card from an unglued supplement, which I think I counted is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. There's many more than I had counted before.
The Chicken a la King is also from Unglued.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he got the reprint. So 5, but really it only is a mana cost reduction, kind of. No, not even. It's not a mana cost reduction for any of them. So we've got Ashnod's Coupon, which is a 0 mana artifact. Tap and sack. Target player gets you a drink. Target player gets you target drink. Errata, you pay any cost for the drink. So you crack that. Somebody go gets you a beer. I think it really says a lot about Magic players as a whole. That if you'll note, there are a number of silver bordered cards in this deck. Ashnod's Coupon at the time of us running the show is worth $9 at Card Kingdom for a silver bordered card, and all it does is it makes somebody else go and get you a drink.
And then we have the questionably vegetarian option, Hot Soup. So that with those cards, I was just kind of like, oh man, like I'm getting off the rails silly with this deck.
It's the best way to be.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, where do I go next? If I'm on the beach, I gotta have some sort of wildlife. So I've got my uninvited beach guests, which Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
We've been playing this one up now for the last 10 minutes.
Guess what, guys? I got the rock lobster in here. I do not have scissor lizards or paper lion? Paper tiger?
Paper tiger.
But I got the rock lobster in here, which is a 4-mana artifact for 4/3. Artifact creature lobster. Creatures named scissors lizard cannot attack or block. Not really applicable. But unless I guess somebody's playing a scissors lizard. And then with that, I also have sandbar crocodile, bringing back the phasing. It's a 4 and a blue for a 6/5.
Yeah.
With phasing, which means that you play it on turn 5. Turn 6, it phases out. Turn 7, it phases back in, and then you can finally attack with it. And then we have a bunch of Viashino Sand blank. So Viashino Sand Scout, Sand Sprinter, Sand Stalker, Sand Swimmer. The Viashino like to crash parties. But along with that, not only do we have the shore locked visitors, but we have the water locked visitors. We've got Voracious Great Shark. And all of these generally bounce things. We've got Voracious Great Shark, 5/4 flash. When it enters, counter target artifact or creature spell. We've got the Pouncing Shore Shark, which is the scary one, because whenever it mutates, you may return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. This is literally the only mutate card in the deck, so you have to probably just mutate it onto something else to get its effect. Otherwise, it's just a shark beast. We've got Coastal Breach and Engulf the Shore. I did not put in Cyclonic Rift, but I put in these two cards.
You've also got Swirling Sandstorm.
Oh yeah, Swirling Sandstorm, because it has sand in the title.
Yes.
And then I've got, a handful of mana rocks making up my rocky coast. Mostly because I just needed something to fill out my ramp. And then some lands of note. I've got Caldera Lake, because maybe it's a lake beach with all those sharks. Desolate Lighthouse, because you find lighthouses near the beach.
Often on the beach. The Grasping Dunes. I like that one.
Grasping Dunes. Unknown Shores. My favorite.
Lonely Sandbar.
Lonely Sandbar.
Oh.
And then to round out the deck, something I want this deck to eventually do at some point is I put in Kedis from Commander Legends.
Yes.
Kedis Emberclaw Familiar. 1 and a red. It's your little lizard friend. It's a 1/1.
Yeah.
Legendary creature, elemental lizard. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So I know I kind of glossed over these at the beginning of the deck tech, but Zinder Split, Eye of Wisdom says partner with Okun. Eye of Okon.
Sure.
Eye of Chaos. At the beginning of a combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. Whenever a player wins a flip, draw a card. Which, great. Card draw. That's some of the only card draw I have in the game, or in the deck, but it does pretty good. Now, Okon. Eye of Chaos. 4 and a red for a 3/3. For a 3/3, at the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. So, you're flipping a coin, and if you have both out, you flip a coin until you lose the flip twice. Whenever a player, including yourself, wins a coin flip, double Okon's power and toughness until end of turn. So, you somehow flip 3 coins in a row and win all of them. It's 3, 6, 12, 24. It's 24. You hit anybody with it, you're doing 24 damage to everyone with it. Granted, the ones that you don't hit on combat damage don't get commander damage, but that is a lot of damage. So I just kind of threw this in there because I was like, oh, I want to see this happen.
That does seem cool. I like that.
That's
I like
my
that little setup.
That's my little pet card of this deck, along with Ashnod's Coupon, of course.
Of course.
I'm so excited for this deck. I spent the past couple days kind of brewing it, and every time I thought of a new category, I was like, oh, this is going to be a stupid party. Because I don't think I can win with this deck, but I think I can make everyone have just like an absurd amount of fun just playing around this. I think it's a lot of fun. And my favorite part, Architect tells me that this deck costs $73.11. Which, I mean, I guess like because 15 of them are silver bordered cards, but like, so what? Like it's just.
And the best part is, honestly, Ashnod's Coupon is 9 of those $73. I mean, that's just comical.
Oh my god, I forgot a whole category. What do you cook those hot dogs and hamburgers on, Bruce, but a fire?
Fire!
So I have a 5-card fire pile, I guess.
Yep.
I've got Bonfire of the Damned.
Uh-huh.
I've got Coal Stoker,
Yep.
which is no relation. Exuberant Fire Stoker, also no relation.
Oh.
Roast and Skewer the Critics, just because, because they're fun fire theme.
Yeah.
Specifically food type kind party and food. That's my jam.
Nice.
Yeah. Whoo.
I would say you've done an excellent job with the theme.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm
Hey.
honored. You know what?
Well, I mean, come on.
I'll invite you to my barbecue.
Excellent. I mean, if I can get some burgers, some dogs,
Hell yeah.
I'm all about that. And I'll even bring along my own Ashnod's Coupon. So, no, this looks like a lot of fun.
I sure hope it is, because I'm playing it on Thursday. We'll see how it goes. Because I mean, my last theme deck went all right. I would say my germ deck was all right.
Yep.
So that's my deck. Bruce, get ready for your deck, because we're gonna go to a break. We're gonna go to our sponsor, see what they have to say. Hopefully it's something good.
All right. So while we're on the sponsor break, I'll get myself hyped and ready to go.
Yes, I'll get you hyped.
Here we go.
All right, let's go. Sponsor break. 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. Be right back. Not goodbye. This episode of Temple of the False Pod is brought to you by Rakdos Carnarium.
When you come over for dinner, the question is whether or not you're eating it or you are. Mention this podcast and get a 2-for-1 special for the next week. Rakdos Carnarium, the finest barbecue in all of Ravnica.
All right, back to you guys.
All right, we're back.
Everyone had matching towels. There you go. Hyped you up.
There we go. All right, so normally I would start with the commander, but honestly, I think it's safe to say the commander, while suitable for the deck, was really very much of an afterthought when it came to this deck. I started with the cards and then decided, okay, I need a commander that allows me to build this deck, and I picked whatever I thought was the most appropriate commander. So we'll save the commander for just a minute. When I decided what I wanted to do, I thought barbecue, and I thought, okay, we want food, obviously. That's the key for the barbecue.
Obviously.
However, I wanted a particular kind of food, and I immediately thought of
food tokens?
Well, I thought about food tokens, but if we were going to do barbecue, let's roast a pig.
Oh.
Let's roast a pig. So, not surprisingly, to anybody who's played Magic for any length of time, there are no pigs in Magic. There are only boars. So, you get boars. I thought boar worked out pretty well anyway. As a fan of Asterix and Obelix, I'm a big lover of the boar. And so once I got past that, then I also considered the food tokens as well. So, so you'll see the primary theme of the deck is both the boar creatures and food tokens. So, we'll start down the main part. So
The biggest category of all.
the biggest category of all is food. So,
Whew.
I actually got to be a little bit picky here because I did not pick every single pig that was available. I actually got to pick and choose a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit.
Picky eater, Bruce.
Well, you know, yeah. Well, you know,
Okay.
I don't want.
Well, that's
I don't want my
Hey,
boar
this is
raw.
your barbecue. You
I
can
don't
do
want
whatever
my
you
raw
want.
boar. I want to just sit and soak and spin and sizzle. Have that fat dripping down into the fire. So, anyways, so some of the boars that I chose archetype of endurance.
Of course.
Because, I mean, creatures I control have hexproof, meaning you don't get to eat them until I say they're ready. Creatures my opponents control lose hexproof and can't have or gain hexproof. I don't really need to go too far into this. I mean, it's here because it's a boar, and it's a big beefy boar. So that was part of it.
Beefy or porky?
Well, I guess porky. Porky certainly makes more sense. Boar Tusk Liege. This one is not actually a boar. It just has boar in the name. But when you look at the picture, he's riding a big pig. It gives other red creatures and other green creatures, they each get +1/+1. So, and given that almost every creature in the deck is either red or green or both, or at least one of those,
Yeah.
it works out to be a pretty decent card.
Yeah, that goblin brought his own food.
He did.
And you gave him a +1/+1.
Yes. Brindle Boar. I like the idea that you can sacrifice it to gain 4 life. It just sort of makes sense. Of course, you're going to sack it. You're eating it, and that would, give you a little more strength. And then I'll just go through some of the others here. There's Bristling Boar. There's Crashing Boars. There's Festerhide Boar. There is Illarg, the Raise Boar. There was a big
probably some
part
tough
of me.
meat.
It most likely is some tough meat. There was a big part of me that wanted to try and build the entire deck around this card. I wanted to make this the commander and try and make it work, and I just couldn't. There were just way too many good cards in other colors that I absolutely desperately wanted to have, and I just couldn't justify it. So I think Illarg is a really good creature, and the whole theme of putting the creature out, attacking, and then putting it back into your hand, I really like that idea, and I like the card altogether. So Illarg the Raised Boar was definitely in there.
Yeah, and it's a nice set piece with the next boar in the deck too, Nessian Boar.
Nessian Boar, yes. Yeah, because the Nessian Boar lures everybody else to check it out. Because, I mean, hey, Illarg is, it's a big tough boar. And the Nessian boar is certainly more juicy. And a 10/6 to boot. Then there's Outland Boar, Prickle Boar, Rubble Belt Boar, Valakut Fire Boar, and Wolf's Quarry, which is, the 3 little pigs. But, in Magic, they're 3 little boars. And those will definitely be juicy.
Yeah, I mean, when they die, they literally make food.
Exactly. I did throw a few other bits of food in there. Fell the Pheasant, because, well...
For a classic fantasy barbecue.
Primarily, it's in there because, I needed a way to deal with some fires. But it fits the theme. You do damage, and you create a food token. So
Hell yeah.
That seemed to make sense to me. I chose free-range chicken as one of my options. I used to have an unglued chicken deck. You can really ramp up the size of the chicken just by rolling a couple of 6-sided dice a few times, and it only costs 2. I like the card, and hey, free chicken. Gilded Goose was another one I added. When it enters the battlefield, you get a food token, and then it takes your food tokens and makes them into mana. So you're not just sacking a food token for life. You can sack it now to gain mana. And trust me when I say this deck needs all the help it can get when it gets to as far as mana and ramping.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like some of Standard's best ramp right here.
I took what I could get. I've got.
Oh, that wasn't sarcastic.
I also added Golden Hind, not a particularly great creature, but hey, and then there's Poultrygeist, which is the other it's an already dead chicken, but
I don't want to eat a live chicken.
Right, and it flies, it gets a little bigger, you mess around with some stuff. I like that. So that was sort of the way the food setup went. Obviously, there are a handful of other cards in the deck that will make food tokens, and we'll get to those in a minute. But these are the
Bruce,
these are
who's
the primary
cooking up
ones.
this food?
Well, this is the other part. When I talked about the other people who were attending, we've got the ones who are making the food, the ones who provide the food, and the ones who eat the food. So the creatures. So who provides? Well, the butcher, because we're talking about a whole lot of pigs. So I've got Brood Butcher in here. I've got Butcher of Malakir. So this isn't all bad cards. I've got Faceless Butcher, which in its day was a good card. So I've got 3 butchers, and then I've got the if we're going to be doing this many pigs, we're going to need some pit bosses here. So we've got Kuro, Pit Lord.
Wow, literally.
Yes, quite literally. Now, practically speaking, it costs 9, and during your upkeep you have to pay 4 black. This is a 4-color deck, and black is not one of the 2 primary colors. So Kuro is in here for the theme, and less so because you're actually hoping to cast him.
He's actually a really good target for Ilharg.
Yes. And a number of the cards that I was thinking of were going to be good targets for Ilharg. In any event, there it is. One of the other Pit Lords, I've got Lord of the Pit.
Hey!
I mean, again, another card that costs a lot of black, but that one you can make work. And the idea of sacrificing a creature each turn, we are at a barbecue, people. I thought that was a pretty appropriate. And then of the other pit boss, I really like this one. Sisters of the Flame. Now, this is an old school card. Sisters of the Flame just sounds like, somebody who knows or a group of people who know their way around barbecue. That you can see that stitched into somebody's denim jacket. They tap and
especially with that hair.
Right. They tap and add 1 mana to your mana pool, and they're 2/2 creatures for 3 mana. This isn't, they're not spectacular or anything, but I love the name. I thought it fit the theme perfectly.
Oh, definitely.
And at every barbecue, you're going to need people there who are going to be eating the barbecue. So this is where another one of my uncard comes in. Fat Ass. You'll note all of the splattering of condiments all over the card. And I'm not really going to get into it any more than that, other than, hey, Fat Ass. I mean, there you go. We got Feasting Troll King. This is another one with a pretty harsh mana cost. It costs 6, and 4 of those 6 are green. So this could be a little difficult to actually play out, but we'll make it work.
You can very easily get it back from your graveyard, though.
Right, and it creates food tokens on top of being the Feasting Troll King, so I just thought this was going to be a very fun card to throw in the deck. And then finally, Gluttonous Troll, because, hey, it's barbecue. If you're not going to be a glutton at the barbecue, then when? And the Gluttonous Troll also creates food tokens and lets you sack other permanents to make them a little bigger. So
yeah, Gluttonous Troll also is just like a real good card in terms of its multiplayer synergies. Like I mean, when it enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have.
Right.
Those are always a couple nice words to have on your cards when it references having more than one opponent.
Well, exactly. So that was sort of where I went with the creatures. Much like Andy, you gotta have fire.
Gotta
have fire. I think you're going to recognize at least a couple of these cards. Bonfire of the Damned, I believe that one was also in Andy's deck, and Roast was another one that was from Andy's deck. I went a little bit different. I got Bathe in Dragonfire, mostly because of the flavor text. I loved it. I thought it was perfect. The scent of cooked flesh lingers in the charred landscape of Tarkir. That makes you think barbecue, doesn't it?
Yeah, right? Especially the smell, like...
Exactly. So some of the other cards that fit into the fire theme was Captive Flame, Open Fire, Smoke, Sword of Fire and Ice, and I saved the sort of for the end, Fire Shrieker, because I love that every once in a while you put that piece of meat over the fire and it sizzles and it has that little scream sound to it where you can hear, you can almost hear like
yeah, like the steam escaping.
Yeah, and I love that. Oh yeah, oh that's great. A couple of the other cards, I was sort of focused on the idea of so if you're going to have fire, well, you have to have a way to make the fire. So I looked at wood and coal options. Sorry, Ambassador Oak, you're not coming to enjoy the food at the fire at this barbecue.
What do you mean?
I mean, we're gonna be doing some slow roasting, and we might need to borrow your limbs.
It's a giving tree.
Right, and then I've got Coal Stoker.
No relation.
No relation. And Coal Hauler Swine, which honestly for this particular deck works in so many ways, because hey, I've got the coal for the wood and coal options, I've got the swine for the boar options. For those of you who's looking at the card, I know it says beast, but we recently looked it up and it is in fact a beast boar. I believe that was the case, right? Boar beast? Yep. Perfect. Boar beast. I also included Might of Oaks. This card gets me too many times, and hey, it's an oak. Yeah. So there we go. I thought it fit really well. It fit the theme, and you know, if every once in a while I can swing one of those little smaller boars through to hit for some damage, well, you know, surprise.
Hell yeah, dude.
And we'll pound you. We got Shower of Coals, and finally Tinderwall, which it was funny because when I put it in the deck, I hadn't really considered just how well this card works. Starts as wood, and then you literally burn it to create red mana or do damage to a creature. It really doesn't get much better than that. So I really like that option. Some of the ramp options, yeah, I put the signets in there, but just ignore those because they're not really on theme. More importantly, I've got Charcoal Diamond, I've got a Coal Golem, I've got Fire Diamond, I've got Moss Fire Egg. Those were some of the on-theme pieces of ramp that I made work.
Yeah, so. I mean, Coal Stoker kind of fits that too.
Yeah. I think Coal Stoker could have gone. Most of the wood coal options that I had were sort of. I expected that they were going to tie into the ramp, but it worked out pretty well. While Andy had the Spatula of the Ages, I have the Butcher's Cleaver, because if you're going to have 3 butchers in your deck, you better have a cleaver for them to use. I also have the Giant's Skewer,
which, I mean, depicts literally a hog being skewered.
Exactly. And the best part is I was talking with my wife Yolanda while I was building the deck, and we were sort of throwing out ideas for what to, terms to search for. Mm-hmm. And obviously it came up with the food tokens, and then I'm just like, oh, you've got to be kidding. This is the reason that there is black in this deck. Because there was just no way I was going to let a card go that literally shows a boar being cooked, and it fits the theme so perfectly. So I had to make sure that black stayed in the deck. because there was a little bit where I wanted to go down to just red and green, and I think I could have, but I couldn't pass this card up. I just couldn't. And yes, I appreciate that as far as play with the deck, it's not particularly exciting.
I mean, it makes food on combat damage.
It
so
does.
that's cool.
It does. The thing is that a food token, you spend 2 mana to gain 3 life. It is just not nearly as good as the treasure token. So
Yeah.
you have to keep that in mind. I mean, obviously, Gilded Goose will change that whole setup, but
Right.
the food tokens are, maybe not the best of the tokens, but man, they fit the theme so well. I don't know how you, you just got to go with it.
A lot of the food synergies you see in Magic generally are either using food for fueling other outlets, or like Gilded Goose or Cauldron's Familiar.
Yeah,
but
Feasting Troll King.
I would say food tokens toward endgame are real good, considering you'll start to find yourself with more and more mana up.
Right, you find, I mean, when it's about to become...
It's a great mana sink, yeah.
Yeah, when it's about to become your turn, if you have any untapped mana, well, tap it, sack your food. I mean,
like,
a few extra life points.
I've heard multiple people say this, and I think it's accurate. 3 life is a lot for this. Like, it should have either costed more or been less life, but it will save you at some point, and that's great.
2 other artifacts I want to mention: Witch's Cauldron and Witch's Oven, because hey, if you're at a barbecue, you're gonna need somewhere to cook it. I like the idea of the Witch's Oven, just the whole burning coals, and I was picturing much more of a pizza style oven, or something that allows for that long slow roast. So there was that. And if we're going to be at if this is going to be a barbecue, then this should be a festival, and so I included Market Festival.
Very nice.
Yeah. And whenever Enchanted Land taps for mana, its controller adds 2 mana of any combination of colors to their mana pool. So I realize that this thing costs 4, and that generally puts it out of any sort of reasonableness when you're thinking about ramp, or you're thinking about anything like that. But given the deck, it fits the theme, and it really helps with a lot of the crazy mana costs that are in this deck, because there are some wild ones. And I also included Grim Feast, because, hey, a barbecue, it's a feast. I didn't necessarily say it had to be pig. Maybe it turns out it's just you.
Yeah, I mean, our sponsor knows a thing or two about that.
They just might. I also included Insatiable Appetite, because, hey, you're sacrificing food tokens to get much bigger, and Insatiable Appetite is something you definitely want to be bringing to a barbecue.
Oh, hell yeah.
I included in my land set, I had a few lands that fit. I thought Castle Ember S was particularly good. There were a lot of Cinder, so Cinder Barrens and Cinder Glade. The Derrygaz Caldera worked well for me. I thought Firelit Thicket for the fire. Great Furnace sort of ties into the whole Witch's Oven, ties into the roasting of the boar and all that kind of thing. So I thought that was cool. Mossfire Valley, just, hey, there's fire. Just fire. Skarg the Rage Pits. It's less about angry in the pits and more about cooking stuff in the pits. But, the pits, I thought that worked out well. And most importantly, Temple of the False God. Honestly, the card just fits the theme in virtually every deck that you can come up with. You really can't go wrong. Temple of the False God. And I guess now that I've finished with the deck, the commander, Yurlok of Scorch Thrash. Scorch, I thought fit well with the theme of the deck.
I don't know, Bruce. I wouldn't trust him at my barbecue. He might just mana burn everything.
He might just do that. And for those of you who recognize Yurlok of Scorch Thrash, he does do mana burn, and if you don't know what mana burn is, go look it up, because the guy named Mana Burned on Twitter is not gonna go through and tell you what it does. Go find out for yourself.
I'll tell you. It says, Yurlok's text, for those still wondering. He's a 4/4 for 1 black, red, green. He's got vigilance, and which is important because of his activated ability. But he says, a player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life, which is quite literally mana burn. And his activated ability is 1 generic tap. Each player adds black, red, green.
Yeah, you add Jund.
Jund. So 1 in tap, each player gets 3 mana of those specific colors. Yeah.
So now, Andy, you had mentioned, and I'm going to bring this back, you had mentioned mana abundance out of your deck, which is one of the playtest cards. And for from, 2 in a red,
boosters. Yeah.
It's if a player would add mana, instead all players add that mana. Well, when Yurlok taps, each player adds black, red, and green. Now, if I'm reading this right, that would mean that each player would add black, red, and green, and when they add it, it would
everyone adds it.
Everyone adds it. So if there's a 4-player game, for 1 mana, each player would add 4 black,
12?
4 red, and 4 green to their mana pool.
Seems about right. And it's your favorite type of card, a world enchantment.
Yes, love me a world enchantment. And since you can tap Yurlok at any point in time, you can tap it at points where you know your opponents are going to be taking some burn with that 12 mana, because it's 12 mana. Yeah. In any event, that is my deck. Unlike Andy, I'm not nearly as excited to try and actually play this. I very much kept to the I kept to the barbecue theme, and really focused on the theme a lot more than the playability. I wanted a deck that more told the story of the barbecue, as opposed to worrying about whether or not it was going to be playable. I will say I did try and match the lands up so that they at least so that the lands could play out the spells. So if you do decide you want to take a shot with this and see how it plays, you're certainly welcome to, and the land base should help with that. I personally would not recommend it. If you're going to choose one of the decks, go with Andy's deck. Play that one. If you want to try in this one, I would recommend looking at one of the smaller themes for it and building the deck more around that theme.
Yeah. I really like yours because it really it's a story of choices. You have to choose which butcher to go to. The butcher helps you pick out your meat, and then you have to choose the right wood for the right fire, for the right temperature and smoke, and it's very artisan. It's an artisan process of your smoking boar. It's great.
The more I think about it now, though, the more I think is that what I'm missing some booze. I don't have any booze in this deck. I need some booze. Because if you're going to spend all day, roasting a pig on the spit, you really want to have some booze. There should be beers involved, and I have not done that here. So,
I know a 0 mana artifact that
gets
you there.
Yes.
Just sneak it into hand.
So there was that. But
it's funny. I almost went with a food themed deck, like very heavy on food tokens is where I was thinking of going. But I really wanted to do like a Zedru build, where I would give out the food tokens to everyone. But surprisingly, I mean, not that surprisingly, there's not a lot of food token generators in blue and white, and Zedru is blue, white, and red. I really like your deck for. I feel like Ilharg is a big hidden commander in this deck.
It really is. I mean, he is one of the stars, and I think you really want to be able to run it back. That's part of what I was saying. I mean, this deck tells a story and it follows the barbecue theme. You know, if you really want to focus on the idea of Ilharg as a sort of a hidden commander in this deck, I think you can very well do it in this particular set. I think these are 3 colors that would work well with Ilharg. I think you can choose a handful of the creature options that are in the deck that would go very well with Ilharg. But then I think there's a number of cards you could probably pull out and use those and then replace them with cards that will make Ilharg even more powerful, or find better ways, because there's nothing here that protects your commander. There's no way to get any card back from the graveyard. So there are some obvious drawbacks to the deck. But like I said, I wanted to go with the theme. I stuck with the theme. I went for it whole hog.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, I think on that note, we're gonna wrap it up. If you want to build a barbecue deck, send us a link. We'd love to see it. You can link us on Twitter. We're at falsepodmtg, or you can email it to us at falsepodmtg@gmail.com. But that's gonna do it for us this week and this season. Oh my god, I almost forgot that it was the season finale. Thank you for hanging in there through season 2. We'll be back in 3 weeks. We're going to take 2 weeks off. We'll be back on the 3rd week with a new season. Season 3 of Temple of the False Pod.
Can't believe it. Can't believe it.
So exciting. We've done 20 episodes, Bruce.
It's obscene. I can't believe we've done 20 episodes. I'm exhausted.
Well, you'll get 2 weeks off. How about that?
All right. That's what I needed. Phew.
Woo! So we'll be back then. We're Temple of the False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. Thank you for listening. I'm Andy.
I'm Bruce.
And we'll see you next time. Have a great night, and may your 5th land be the temple.
Bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, Andy here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Temple of the False Pod. Just a few housekeeping things here at the end of the show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. Subscribe and give us a review. It really helps out the show. And it'll show us what you like about our podcast. Also, we've got a Twitter and an Instagram. Our handle is falsepodmtg, all one word. So be sure to follow us. Feel free to reach out to us there or drop us an email at falsepodmtg@gmail.com and tell us your favorite magic-related story. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again to you and to Bruce. He's Mana Burned on Twitter, and I'm Andy Weekend on Twitter and Twitch. We're Temple of the False Pod, where our decks aren't optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. Have a great night, and may your 5th land be the temple.